So it looks like you're trying to draw this chair, and what I really can't see is if these planes are on the same plane or if they're angled inwards, or if this is on the same plane just offset like 4 inches or something like that. So basically defining what your requirements are is going to really depend on how to actually draw this thing. So if we get into it, there's two different ways you can do it. Either a 2D sketch and make multiples of them, or just one 3D sketch. Or you can make a whole bunch of 2D sketches and then at the end use a 3D sketch and then project the geometry. The only reason I would say to do that is because then once you do a 3D sketch, you can actually use this command, which is bend, and it'll add a bend between 2 points. So for instance, if you basically did a 2D sketch with the bottom lines and then these lines and then so on and so forth and made them all square, you could then come in with the 3D sketch after the fact and then use the bend command and it would actually end up and give you those bends. So initially, if we basically started doing our 3D sketch, you basically select the bottom plane. So now we're on the bottom. So if we take our point here and then draw it outwards to, let's say, 30 inches. I don't know how big this thing is. Um, so there you go. So then we can come up in this direction, and however that front is, 12, let's say, then we can come over. Now, since this thing is symmetrical, I'd say probably just doing a half of it would be sufficient. So if we just keep going, let's say this is coming off on this direction again of 4 inches. I don't know how big this little armrest piece kicks out, so we only have one view. So then, if we want to come off of this line, and from there, on this plane, you can then look at kind of what you're going for. So if we come up, and then out, and then down, so notice that all of this stuff is on the same plane. And again, I don't know if that's the case, but we're just going to kind of draw it like so. So if we come up and over, so we can basically perpendicular these things out, like so. And you'll notice that once you start setting up some of these other design intents, it'll kind of sort itself out. Okay, let's do a line from here along that. And that's going to be straight up to there. So now you'll notice that you need to come from here outwards. And if we did that one at 4, and let's say we made another line from the endpoint along this plane, would then come down, over, into the endpoint. So now we're kind of getting some sort of thing. You could obviously set these up a little bit more reasonable, but so let's call this a bend at 2. So then we can start rounding these things off. So it's not big enough, so let's make it a little bigger. There we go. So that's kind of the idea of the chair. Let's make this. So something like that, and let's bend there. So I think that's all the bends that we need, and we're finished our sketch. Now we're going to save this part. So now the part's saved, we can create a new assembly. So now you have your assembly. We can go to design, insert a frame.